Hey, I'm Isaac,
And I'm Casey.
and this is Mind Over Movies.
Yes, it's a new podcast.
You know, you were probably thinking, you don't have enough white males talking in your ears about their favorite movies, but let me tell you, this is exactly that.
You haven't heard from these two white males, though.
Our opinion matters, you know?
I sometimes say our opinion is the only opinion that matters. In Conway, at least. Conway, Arkansas.
We're Arkansan. You know, we're a bit starved for movie nerds out here, so we're usually talking to each other. So I guess our general thinking was, if we're gonna talk so much about movies, might as well
exactly
document it at least. You know?
I think we were at a party when we had the idea or something. Couple drinks in, we were like, we should just do a podcast. And then it's been a long time coming, but it's here.
It's finally here, man.
Yeah. Well, we're going to introduce ourselves a little bit more. Isaac, you wanna go first, or you want me to go first? Or?
Oh yeah. I'll take this one.
Okay.
So our idea for this opener is that maybe we'd let you in on some of our tastes. You know, let you know some of our favorite movies.
Yeah, just to give you an idea if you actually want to hear our opinions or not.
Yeah. I know a lot of people hear, oh, you know, I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan, and then like that's all they need to hear. It's like, okay.
They're like, never mind.
Have you ever heard of the movie Her? Groundbreaking. No, but I thought, and Casey thought, that this would be a good way, you know, that you could judge us right off the bat. So I'll start with one of my favorite movies. I gotta say, Fargo. If we gotta jump right into it. Like,
okay.
Coen brothers are definitely two of my favorite directors. I love No Country for Old Men also, and honestly, it was kind of a hard pick about which one I'd talk about today. But while I think No Country for Old Men is kind of that perfect drama, I think that Fargo has those elements of dark comedy that I need from the Coen brothers. And, you know, I want to say that it's because of the witty writing, but it's the accents. It really is.
Yes, the upper northern accents.
I think that is like maybe one of the most charming dialects that's ever been put to the screen. And of course it's exaggerated in the movie. That's what I really love about the Coen brothers is they'll take real life and they'll play it up and exaggerate it a little bit. And I think Fargo is the best example of that.
It's a very quotable movie. I agree with you. Yeah, like I find myself like after I watched it for the first time, like a week later, I was like going around being like, oh gee, oh gosh,
heck, Margie.
oh heck, I killed my wife.
Verbatim quote.
Yeah, verbatim quote. Oh heck, I killed my wife. No. Yeah, I would honestly. Fargo's a little bit lighter. Actually, it's a lot lighter in tone than No Country for Old Men, and I think it makes it a little bit more rewatchable than No Country. Even though No Country is pretty much a masterpiece. Actually, I think they're both, you know, really good. I agree.
I don't use the term like perfect to describe a lot of movies because I mean, sure, there's always some kind of flaw there, but I don't really see too many flaws in Fargo or No Country for Old Men.
I'm gonna be honest, me neither. I really think they hit it out of the park with those two movies specifically.
And I guess what I admire about Fargo is that it's not based on anything. Like No Country is an adaptation, but Fargo is just like straight from not straight from the minds of the Coen brothers because it is based off of an actual murder. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah, they changed a lot about it though.
Just the wood chipper part really is all that makes it into the movie.
It was a change for the better.
And honestly, I mean, we're not necessarily talking about TV, but the Fargo television series
is it good?
It's very good.
Okay, I need to watch it.
The fourth season's on right now, and you'd be surprised. Jason Schwartzman and Chris Rock, you know, usually comedy heavy, they kill it in this show.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's an anthology series though, so it's not always about them. Like the first season definitely parallels the movie structure in a lot of ways, but it branches off into its own original story, and it's very Coen Brothers inspired. But yeah, I would say just the mythology behind Fargo and the lie that it's a true story make it such an intriguing little movie. And I don't know, this is weird, but I kind of watch it every December. It's kind of become like a Christmas feeling movie.
Yeah.
I mean, just because there's snow, I guess.
Well, it just the box art for it. I think there's like it's like almost looks like a, I don't know if this is the show box art or if it's the movie, but there's like
I think it's both.
Yeah, where it's like a knitted sweater almost, and it says Fargo. It's like Christmas colors. It's very Christmassy.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if this Christmas I actually went and rewatched it.
And you know, I mean, not spoiling the movie too much, but I hope most people have seen it though, because it's a classic. But
spoiler warning. It
does have, you know, kind of a Christian theme to it, because Margie is just this pure, like, I don't want to say Christ-like figure. She's more of a Mother Mary, and the guy that Steve Buscemi is like this pure evil, you know, like he just is this brooding, like kind of Bruce Willis looking guy, and I mean he just ditches his partner and shoves him in a wood chipper, you know, does these insanely inhumane things, and Margie, who's this like soon to be mother and just like really good cop, really straight arrow, you know, kind of has to go to the very edge of like human goodness. And I mean, even William H. Macy's character is kind of an embodiment of that too, like you know, the temptation to by greed and riches, you know. That's
interesting. I never looked at it like that, but it is the Coen brothers, so
I don't remember if it was Ebert or someone back in the 90s pointed that out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Well, the Coen brothers are infamous for exploring religion, if you think about it, like or more like just religious. This is gonna sound weird, but you know, "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" It's based off the Odyssey, but there's like a lot of like religious undertones in that film, since they set it in like the Deep South, and they also did it with No Country for Old Men. Like that's about literally.
Yeah, Javier Bardem is like basically the devil.
Exactly.
In that movie. Like that.
And I watched a famed video essay on YouTube.
Oh my gosh.
By one of these film video essayists. I forget what which channel it was, but he was there are so many. But he was talking about No Country for Old Men, and the theme being the silence of God. Talking about, and the movie makes parallels between that, and I think it was the book of Ezekiel, I'm pretty sure, about, it was like, I never thought about it until he started pointing out these verses with parallels of scenes or sequences in the movie, and I was like, oh my god, this movie is literally about, like, is God real or not, and if he's real, why is Javier Bardem killing all these people like this? It's really interesting.
And he gets away with it at the end.
Oh yeah, definitely. Too, yeah.
Oh my gosh, so many spoilers for Coen Brothers movies. We maybe better jump away from them. Yeah.
I might have to add like spoiler warnings, like in post, and just add little. We should have a sound for when we're about to divulge spoilers. But
we'll just talk to a fake editor. Sophie, fix that in post.
Yeah, Sophie. Sophie's our editor, guys. But,
what about you, Casey? What's one of your favorite films?
So we're gonna get a lot of people that click off this podcast immediately once they hear my thoughts about my favorite films. So here I'm gonna say I have a few favorite films that are like tied for like first place, and then I'm gonna go ahead and say what my absolute favorite film of all time is.
You can pick a first.
Yeah, do you want to say another couple?
No, I just, man, I don't know if I could pick a all-time favorite. That's just so hard for me.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
I just know that there's one that is just going to be, like, there my entire life. My opinions about this one movie are never going to change. My opinions about other movies may change.
My gosh,
there's one that I know. No, okay, so...
Stay tuned.
Yeah, right. So, I'll go ahead and mention one because I've been watching the series Hannibal. I'm on season 2. So far, I really like Hannibal, but I've been watching Hannibal because I recently watched Red Dragon, and I was like, interesting. And you were the one that told me to watch Hannibal because you were like, they kind of redo Red Dragon in the 3rd season, and I was like, I would like to see that.
Yeah, it's very cool. Richard Armitage, who's from The Hobbit, like he kills it in season 3. I mean, anyone who hasn't seen Hannibal the show, I'd highly recommend it. Matt Mikkelsen is fantastic.
Oh my god, he's one of the most overlooked actors, I think, of this like the past like 20 years, because the dude's been in like I think on Letterboxd it has him down for like 80 something films, and he's great. I love Mads Mikkelsen. Anyway, all this to say, I started watching Hannibal because one of my favorite movies of all time is the
Hannibal Rising.
Hannibal. Yes, Hannibal Rising. I think it's a 10 out of 10 movie. No, Silence of the Lambs, obviously.
Oh my gosh.
It's so good. There's nothing about it that I think is bad necessarily. Yeah, it's a 5-star movie for me, man.
Dude, I don't know if there's like any more solid like horror crime thriller like out there. Like you know, I think that No Country for Old Men and Fargo are great, just like dramas that makes like elements of comedy in Fargo's case anyway. But you know, Silence of the Lambs, people argue that is just straight up horror, and I mean, as a horror movie to go on and win Best Picture, Best Director, like the big 5. Like
I know.
It's one of only 3, right?
That's what I wanted to talk about, is how like odd it is that this movie was the one to just sweep, you know, award season like that.
The Oscars really hate horror movies.
I know.
So this is like...
I know, and so like I watched it the first time. See, that was about 5 years ago was the first time I watched it, and I watched it. It was the perfect setting. I found it on VHS at a yard sale one time, and I was gonna buy it, and I was gonna watch it like basically on my own time. But at the time I was with my parents at the cabin. We have a cabin out in the middle of nowhere that we go on vacation.
Oh no!
Yeah, so. And I had it with me, and my parents were like, "Oh, Silence of the Lambs! Oh, you've got to watch Silence of the Lambs." And I was like, "You guys," because they're the ones they don't watch like, you know, like horror movies, thrillers, or anything like that. But they said they remember watching this in theaters, and I was like, "Oh!" And they're like, "This is a great movie." So I was like, "Well, hell, I'll put it on." And so we watched it for the first time, and I really liked it. But then I revisited it about a year later, because when I learned that it won Best Picture and all these like what did it win?
It won
top
Best
5?
Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor.
Oh my god.
Like, it was just incredible.
Yeah. So I learned that, and I was like, dang, okay, I need to watch it again and pay more attention to it. And when I watched it again, that's when I was like, all right, this is like one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, it really got me the second time I watched it, and since then I've watched it like 3 other times. Like, it's so great. I love it.
It's definitely a movie that's ahead of its time. Like, even just in its themes, like, there weren't a lot of movies in the 90s that were talking about sexism in the workplace. It felt like, you know, like, that was front and center. And Silence of the Lambs is like, Clarice is not being taken very seriously by any of her colleagues, and yet she's on it. She's just like the best worker they have out there.
Right.
And that's what I really like about the movie, is even though Hannibal is manipulating her a little bit, like it never says Clarice is like stupid or anything.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like it shows that her higher up boss, Jack, what's his name?
I think it's Jack, wasn't it?
It's Lawrence Fishburne's character in the show, but I can't remember the name.
No, that's Jack, right?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, Jack Crawford, that's his name, yeah.
Yeah, but like, you know, what I really like is Jack Crawford even like doubts her in like pivotal moments of the movie, like even right before the climax, and you see that he's the one who's been played the whole time. Like, he's playing right into Hannibal's hands. Yeah. And Clarice is just such a strong character. I think that's one of the biggest failings, actually, of the sequel, Hannibal, is that Jodie Foster didn't come back. It was
I didn't watch Hannibal. Like, I've only seen like little scenes from it, because I didn't bother with it. I was like, I know because Anthony Hopkins has said the biggest mistake of his career is playing Hannibal 3 times when he should have only played it once. And I was like, dude, you're so right. Like,
well, Hannibal's interesting because like a lot of elements do come back. Like, Anthony Hopkins is back, and my favorite actor of all time, Gary Oldman, is in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
true.
it's silly. It's like they feed people to like pigs. And
Yeah,
stuff.
I remember. What's the scene? I don't know the actor's name, but he's the guy that played the main character in Goodfellas.
Ray Liotta.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he's in the movie, and basically Hannibal just takes off the top of his like head like a skull and starts eating his brains. It's so stupid, but it's kind of like it makes me want to watch it just a little bit. But I'm like, how much should I go to stain the reputation, my reputation of like Silence of the Lambs? Like it's like you have that movie and you have everything else, and it's like really you don't need to watch anything else besides Hannibal the TV series because that's actually good. But
yeah. And actually, did you know the first time the Hannibal Lecter character was brought to screen was like 5 years before Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah, it was called
Manhunter.
Manhunter, yeah. I'm curious to watch it because I don't know who plays Hannibal in that movie.
That's Brian Cox.
Really?
He was in like X2. He's most recently been in Succession, that HBO show, which is really good. It's a pretty interesting turn on the character, but like Anthony Hopkins definitely stepped it up.
Definitely,
a lot.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, okay. Well, that's one, and then there's like a tie. Like I always, whenever somebody asks me to my favorite movie, I'm like, it's between Monsters Incorporated, Monsters Inc. And The Dark Knight. And The Dark Knight is the one movie I was talking about. My opinions on that movie will never change. That is like a perfect film to me. Like I know, and not every film is like perfect. Like there's some like small flaws in The Dark Knight, I think, but for the most part, I've probably seen the movie 20 times, like all the way through. It never gets old to me. I could watch it right now and just like screech of excitement.
It goes to show that you don't even have to make a comic book movie for comic book fans. Like if you put the work and effort into a film like that, it'll transcend that like kind of nerdier audience, and
exactly.
It can reach everyone, because I don't know anyone who will watch The Dark Knight and not tell you that's just a solid drama.
I know,
it's
right?
about a man who dresses up as a bat. Like they made it so engaging.
The movie's not about like Batman fighting people. It's about a man who dresses up as a bat going up. Like I think the best actual like descriptor like for The Dark Knight, just The Dark Knight, not Batman Begins or Rises, but just The Dark Knight, is like one of the lines that Joker has in the movie about what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Like it's so good. Like in Nolan, when he was writing the script, this is perfect. Like it's just a really well written drama.
And you have just like a lot of elements in that movie that come together really well. Like Heath Ledger obviously is the one that people always go to, but I mean it's for good reason. Like,
oh, definitely.
They captured lightning in a bottle with that performance, and I mean, unfortunately, due to his untimely passing, like we'll never get to see that kind of energy from him ever again.
I know.
But
and he was going to be in the third one.
Yeah, like I think that's part of why Dark Knight Rises is. This is just my opinion, is such a dip in quality. Is like I don't think Nolan knew what to do with the story anymore once he lost the Joker character.
Exactly.
Like, I think he was kind of up a river without a paddle at that point. And
exactly.
He did the best he could.
I agree, but definitely you could tell that the writing he probably went into freak out mode about after Heath passed with like trying to fix the script with that, because I'm sure that what I read something one time that Joker was going to be like 25 to 50% of the third movie. He was going to be in it like way longer. He was going to have a huge part in it. I think Bane was always the idea for it, but Joker definitely had something to do with it, and I think
that would have been cool to see that kind of like mix of brain and bronze.
Yeah, definitely.
I think another element that is kind of surprising that it worked out so well is Rachel being recast between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, and I think it's a testament to Maggie Gyllenhaal that a lot of people didn't even notice.
I know
that
right?
Katie Holmes was gone. Like
I prefer Maggie Gyllenhaal over
And
the other
I know
actress.
that she has a lot less screen time, but like, I don't know, she stuck out to me more in Dark Knight, and I
it's
don't
a
know.
really good performance too, honestly.
Would you say that it's a fair criticism though that they fridge Maggie Gyllenhaal? Have you heard of this term?
No.
So basically, it's like a comic book term. Like a lot of comic books love to kill off the superheroes like main interest. I think it's based off of a Green Lantern character. Like he comes home one day and he opens up his fridge and his girlfriend's like severed body parts are in there.
Oh my god.
But it became so commonplace in comics to kill off like the love interest to piss off the hero that it's now been a term to describe the whole thing, like fridging the character, even if they don't necessarily die that way. So like Amazing Spider-Man 2, even though that's based off the comic, that's definitely fridging Gwen Stacy. I mean, we've also got Deadpool 2, which oddly decided to do the same thing.
I can't believe they took that route, but yeah.
But like, do you think that it was maybe a little cheap to just kill Rachel to piss off Batman, or do you think that was well earned in the stakes of the movie?
I think it was well earned. Definitely, because I don't know. I feel like it's such like that relationship between Bruce Wayne and Rachel, like in that trilogy, like she is the it's not just she's not just a love interest. It's a complicated relationship between the two of them. Something that most superhero movies, like in the case of Spider-Man, it's like they try. Well, okay, in the case of actually both Sam Raimi's trilogy and the two that whoever the hell directed those two abominations. Mark Webb, yeah.
Which, I mean, darn shame. His last name's Webb. What happened?
He should have been able to do it. But
wait, here's a challenge. Tell me who directed the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man movies.
I have no.
Yeah, because they don't have any substance directorially wise, you know.
Well, because I have a comment about that. But to finish my earlier thought,
yeah.
The relationships between superheroes and their love interests are normally just cut and dry. Like, okay, they love each other, and maybe in the story it's like, oh, we can't be. It's complicated because I'm a superhero, and the evil guy might want to find you. But with the Dark Knight, it's nobody really knows that they have that relationship. The only reason Joker basically kills Rachel is because he knows, one, that Batman acted weird around, he threw herself when he dropped her out of the building earlier in the movie, and he just threw himself after her, and he made that comment in the interrogation scene. I think Joker at that point realized he could kill two birds with one stone, because he wanted to kill Rachel because of Harvey Dent. He was trying to turn Harvey Dent into the monster, and by doing that, he was like, oh, I'll get to Rachel, because also this Batman guy also seems to have this connection with her. So, their relationship is sort of hidden. And also, he's like, they go back and forth between, are we going to be together? And Rachel's like, no, I'm going to be with Harvey. But, Bruce Wayne still loves her. It's just, it's a complicated relationship. And so when she dies in the movie, I'm like, that felt earned and also very unexpected for the way the sequence goes with the buildings, and Joker tells them the opposite one. It's just, I think it was done well.
I think I agree. And I think a big part of that is that the movie is not necessarily about Batman, which is weird to say because he, that's him on the front cover and that's his title, The Dark Knight. But Batman's kind of passive in his own story there. It's more a story about Gotham and the battle.
Gotham.
Yeah, the soul of Gotham, fighting to keep it either in good or in darkness. And I think that what the movie does really well is that each player kind of is exhibited just the right amount, and then you don't see too much of them. The Joker is riveting because he's only in 25
minutes
to 30 minutes of the movie. He's not there all the time, but when he shows up, he'll do something pivotal, and then it'll jump away. And it's kind of the same with Batman, except what I really like about The Dark Knight is Batman can't do everything. Like,
Exactly.
it really is about how the city chooses to go about its business. Like, Batman doesn't save the people on the boat at the end. That's the people. Like, that's all their soul. And I guess how it ends is like, yeah, things kind of suck right now, but Gotham's soul has been saved. Like, at the end of the day, it's a city that can face adverse change and overcome like evil. And I think that's more interesting than being like a man in a bat suit who lost his girlfriend is going to save the day.
He single-handedly defeated all these people. Yeah, I agree. And part of that is I recently actually dug into this, and it just made me love the movie even more. The whole soul of Gotham thing, the whole predicament of predicament of the Dark Knight is based off post 9/11 fears. Like,
really?
People have theorized that what Nolan was going for, which totally makes sense. I don't even think it's a theory. I think it's what he was actually trying to do. The Dark Knight represents post 9/11 fears after the terrorism. Joker's a terrorist, and they say, like, one of the theories was that Joker is an ex-military. Because of the way he talks.
I really like that theory.
And that just feeds into, like, the whole post 9/11 idea about it as well. Because it's like Gotham is like a stand-in for New York City after the Twin Towers, and it's basically like the people are like, we just had these planes hijacked and killed thousands of people. Like, what do we do? Are we going to let the terrorists, do it again? Basically, weaken us or whatnot. And
I wonder,
there's all these different stand-ins for different things. Like, and Bush is like, I forget who's a stand-in for Bush, but either way, Nolan crafted it to be like that. Like, this is America. Basically. And I think it's really interesting, and I think that's why critics liked it a lot, because you can read into stuff like that.
Yeah, it's subtle though. Like, it never is too in your face with any of its themes that you feel like, oh my god, they just hit me on the forehead with this. Like, I think the closest it gets to is like, I'm more of a figure, like a protector, and not just like a literal hero. Like, we get it. Like, they get you with that closing speech, but it's endearing. Like, honestly, it is tastefully done, and I think that's why the movie really holds up. And like, even though there's an oversaturation of the superhero market right now, I think people will always be able to return to the Dark Knight,
definitely,
and that Nolan trilogy because
it's so far removed from superhero movies we have now. Honestly, and just this in style, substance, and everything, it's different. And Nolan recently commented that the Dark Knight trilogy, the way it was done, could never exist today. He did it in a time, before this genre was like, I guess, set in stone. Like, this is how movies should work, and that precedent was set by Marvel. And Nolan had creative freedom that he would never have now, that nobody has now, to do a superhero film, because everybody's trying to make their universes. His was distinguished. Like, this is my trilogy. This is it. This is the universe. Nothing else connects to this, which I find very cool.
I will say, I think it works best when he's the director, because did you know he wrote the story for Man of Steel?
Yeah, I know, he was on the
I don't think it works as a film too much.
Doesn't.
No,
because Zack Snyder directed Man of Steel.
Yeah, but I think like from a story standpoint too, there's a lot of weak points. I think Nolan needs his brother, like Jonathan, a little bit,
definitely.
Because Jonathan Nolan co-wrote all three of the Dark Knight movies.
He was the main writer for Memento. He wrote it as a short story and showed it to Chris, and he's like, dude. And Nolan was like, oh my god, we gotta make this. And he's like, okay. And so they rewrote the script into a feature length and shot it, and that's one of his...
I didn't prepare anything about Memento, but I think that's honestly my favorite Nolan movie, and that would easily fit in like a top 20 or top 30 list for me. Like, Memento's awesome, dude.
Fire, dude.
Memento slaps.
It does. It slaps.
Speaking of films that slap, by the way, I guess since you whipped out like your all-time favorite,
okay.
I'm gonna take a crack at one that contends for my all-time favorite a lot, and it's more recent than you might think, and it's from a director who hasn't proven himself as much as you think one might need to. But I think Whiplash.
Oh yeah.
Is constantly like that movie I go back to where I think like this is how you pace a movie, this is how you direct a movie, this is how you act in a movie. Like it's, I don't know that there's anything wrong with it, and like, you know, there's no beyond real life stakes at all. Like there's no crazy gunman or like,
it's very contained.
Yeah, it's just a guy who wants to get really good at drumming if you break it down, and he's got a mean old teacher, except, you know, is he just driving Miles Teller to brilliance? Is the method? Does the end justify the means? Like pretty much. Mm-hmm. And I think that's such an interesting question that is asked by this like hour and 30-minute movie.
Yeah, like, it's like an hour and 35 minutes, I think.
It feels a little bit longer, but like it's so perfect. Like you sit down. You can't turn it off. Like you have to see it through to the end.
It's so riveting. It's absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because Whiplash is actually on my top like movies ever. Yeah, it's right here on my Letterboxd list of my 5-star films. Like I agree with you. Whiplash is amazing. Damien Chazelle is, honestly, if he keeps... I didn't like First Man as much as I did.
I still haven't seen it.
You still haven't seen First Man?
I know. It's kind of ridiculous that Whiplash is like maybe my favorite movie, and I love La La Land. Like,
I think La La Land. La La Land.
I just never got around to seeing First Man. I don't know.
I saw it in a movie theater, and I don't know. Like, that's probably the best place you could have watched First Man, is in a theater, because of the scope of it, going to space and everything. It just... It's not Damien Chazelle. There's nothing Chazelle about that movie. Like Whiplash,
there's no
La La
jazz.
Land. Yeah, exactly. Well, even which I still need to watch Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench. That was his first film he did, and that's
I haven't heard of that.
Really, it's a movie about music, jazz, basically. But
I'm a fake cinephile.
But no, then he did First Man, and I'm like, it's not a bad movie, but it's, I don't know. I would much rather watch La La Land or Whiplash any day, or even the short film of Whiplash over First Man again, honestly. But
yeah, I think what I really love about Whiplash in particular is that you can tell that the script is authentic. Like it's based off of his own experience, like in a music school, and I think it's silly to say, but like, you know, I used to be a band kid, and like a lot of that just feels so real. Like the disappearing folder bit, especially, like,
oh my god, when that scene happened, I flashbacks. I was like, I understand this completely.
I don't know. I think that this is a film that's going to be appreciated by kids all coming up through the band program, like across the nation for years and years. Like it's their nightmare.
I actually have a funny story about that, because I played drums in band in high school, and I was drum major for 2 years in a row, and I was basically trying to, like, you know, tutor these up and coming like drummers that were coming in, and they were struggling. And I told them one day, I said, you know what? And I went out and I bought Whiplash, and I let the drummers borrow it. I said, watch this film. And I said, please just watch it. I said, it's not a film to like watch and learn drums. I said, but it should give you some inspiration, because they were just like not inspired by like anything in band. And I was like, just watch this movie, please. They went and watched it, and then they came back and they were willing to try new things. And I was like, it's probably my greatest, the greatest thing I did as a drum major was make all the drummers watch Whiplash. It was pretty fun.
Dude, yeah, that sounds a bit intense though for high school drums too.
It was intense, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
They came back better, let me tell you.
Let me tell you, they actually did.
Especially after the verbal abuse, Casey. Well done.
I threw a chair at their head a couple times, honestly. No.
Oh, yeah, I just love slapping people to get them to count on time. 1, 2, 3.
Rushing or dragging?
I think that's also why it's up there for me. Is it's insanely quotable. Like,
oh my god, yes.
The counting scene, the rushing or dragging is one that's iconic. But just like anything that comes out of J.K. Simmons' mouth is great. Like that.
Oh my god.
What do you see down there? A Mars bar?
Yeah, it's so good. He's like, I am not your boyfriend. Do not come early. It's like,
that's so good.
Oh, it's so good.
Did you know the line like "I will fuck you like a pig"? That was like a flib, and like J.K. Simmons was like, "Don't put that in the movie," but Damien Chazelle was like, "That was so funny. That should be the take."
When I first watched it, and I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "What is that line?" I was like, "It sounds like somebody messed up their line, but also it works. Like I like it." So
I love when directors just like let their actors riff.
Definitely.
Like I think that was one of the greatest things about the late John Hughes is that like in Breakfast Club and a lot of those early movies, he just let the actors like improvise whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And it just goes to like make these scenes feel a lot more natural. And I mean, J.K. Simmons, I'm sure he's a lovely person in real life, but I'm kind of scared of him forever.
Of him,
you know?
Yeah. Between that and his character of J. Jonah Jameson in the original Spider-Man, he's just so, I don't know, brute and like demanding. But he's a great actor, honestly.
Mm-hmm. He never phones it in. Have you seen Legend of Korra at all? Like
I've watched a little bit of it, and I know that he's the voice actor for
Tenzin.
Tenzin.
Yeah, he's like Aang's son, and you know it's children's animation. You don't have to be bringing your A game because you're like a Hollywood celebrity,
right?
But every season he brings it. Like he actually did that starting before he won the Oscar for Whiplash, and even though he went on to get like that acclaim and be asked to be in a bunch of movies, like never once did he ever seem like he was just phoning it in for the paycheck for Korra. Mm-hmm. Like he saw that series through to the end, and I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I think he's a man of honor, to put it best. But yeah, no, I love J.K. Simmons, and I haven't watched all his films that he's been in a crap ton of films.
He's been in a lot, especially recently. When an actor will go through that like best actor or best supporting actor circuit, and
everybody will try to grab him up.
Yeah, and I mean it doesn't even have to be an Academy Award winning movie. Like, do you remember Chris Pratt wasn't in a lot of stuff pre 2014,
right?
Pre Guardians of the Galaxy, but as soon as that happened, like he's in every action movie that's coming out at that point.
It's kind of crazy.
It's crazy to go back and watch her and see Chris Pratt in there.
I always forget
that he's in there.
I know. And that's hers also on my list, I believe. Oh wait, no, it's not. It's not on my 5-star films list, but it's. Yeah. I think I've rated it like 4.5. It's like it's a near.
I think her is like that perfect movie. I think, man, like I didn't prepare anything for her either, but like
but it's
everything about that and the soundtrack, especially by Arcade Fire, is
my god,
maybe the best film score like out there. Like
I think
truly.
I think honestly, her was like, I've said this in like my film classes. One of the professors asked like, what was the movie that you watched, or what was the point in your life where you realized that film was like could be like art, or like that when you wanted to like pursue film as like a life goal, journey, whatnot. And I was like, it was definitely her for me. Definitely, it was when I saw film as like, wait a minute, this is like art, and like I want to do this. And that was her, because my friend, I was in like, let's see, that was 2013. I was in 7th or 8th grade when I watched her, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So that's a really inspiring film for me.
Dude, special place. It's solid. It is. And I mean, like getting into specifics, which we've been doing already.
Yeah, you're right.
I know that something that we wanted to talk about was some of the best movie openers.
Yeah, because this is the opening to the podcast. It's the first episode, the beginning. Yeah,
making strong impressions. So I'm curious to know what a film that you have in mind is for that solid opening.
Right. So when we talk about best openings, it could be the first shot, the first scene, or the first sequence. And I immediately thought, I don't know if you've seen this film. I don't know if a lot of people have seen this film.
Okay, I'm ready.
But it's called The Parallax View.
No, I haven't heard of this.
So do you know? I'm actually gonna have to look. I don't want to get the director wrong, but I think I know who it is. Okay, Alan J. Pakula. Alan J. Pakula. He did.
I've never heard of this guy.
So it's a political thriller. This guy basically started the whole political paranoia. He has a trilogy called the Political Paranoia Trilogy, and it consists of Clute. Was the first one in 1971, The Parallax View in 1974, and in 1976, All the President's Men.
Okay.
It was like this trio of films he did.
Are they all nonfiction stories, like All the President's Men is, or?
I think so. Well, no, they're not nonfiction. Clute and Parallax View are definitely fiction.
Okay.
But the Parallax View opens with this. The first shot is insane. It has this Native American like totem pole in the foreground, but in the background is like the Space Needle. So immediately he's like, look at this, like this image of like modernity and like taking over basically, you know, land.
It's Manifest Destiny.
Exactly.
Right at the forefront.
Right at the, like, that's the opening shot and you're like, oh shit, okay. But then it immediately goes into the sequence of an assassination. And then it leads to this chase up on top of the Space Needle, and the guy throws himself off of the space. And I'm
oh
like,
my gosh.
Whoa! And so
I'm hooked just hearing
I know,
this.
right?
Wow.
It just opens the movie like that, and I was like, whoa, this film's different. And throughout the whole movie, no spoilers, but it's just basically about an assassination attempt. Basically, it's like who did it. It's like from with like the government planned this, or like the quote unquote Illuminati, the other was the one. And so the director is definitely does not trust the government. Alan J. Pakula, he was very adamant. He made 3 films about it, and but Parallax View is just really interesting. It's very dark, and the opening sequence really sets an emotion of like, it feels like he's telling you something that happened that nobody knows about, but it's just a fictional story he wrote. He may have based it off some things, but the movie's very like mysterious. Like it's a mystery thriller, you know, political thriller. It ends super darkly, but the opening it's a great opening. It's top tier for me.
Sets it right up.
Sets it right up. So what have you got for us?
Oh man, I wish I had some like thing that you never heard of, but the one I kept thinking about when I was thinking about what I would talk about. It's a standard. It's The Lion King. I don't think that
really.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything else that gets you quite as hype as just that opening shot and that
yeah.
Like it's all that the Circle of Life intro is just like the most sweeping and like epic thing in animation. Like still, like I don't think it's been topped at all.
No. Definitely
and
not.
I think this just speaks to like a lot of elements that I want to see in an opening, which is like it hits you right off the bat with something that has to hold your attention. Mm-hmm. It's got often a great score to go with it. I think Hans Zimmer was at his A game back in the 90s.
Dude,
like,
I've said this before. The entire Lion King score is like godly. Like I love that score so much.
I think that's like my favorite Disney movie soundtrack. Like I'm a sucker for Mulan, but I think in terms of just like the score, you know, like, I think Lion King wins it. I wouldn't say that all the songs in Lion King win it though. Like I think
there's a couple that are iffy for me.
I don't care for Hakuna Matata. I'm gonna be
really
honest. Yeah.
For me, it's my favorite song, or the one that doesn't do it for me is like, okay, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? It's great, but like every time that sequence comes on in the movie, I'm just sort of like, okay, let's get through it.
Speed it up. Yeah, the Nala Simba stuff has never been the selling point.
No,
of Lion King.
For me, it's more Scar. His whole song with
Be Prepared.
Be Prepared. That's my favorite.
I think that's maybe my favorite Disney song. But just Circle of Life. I think what really sells it is that it's setup, you know, like this is something that precedes the main story like by years and years, because Simba's not even like grown yet. He's just been born. Yeah. But it doesn't like entice you at all with those details. It's just showing nature in like its pure form, and it kind of plays into that theme that the Lion King has going
definitely.
on. You know, the circle of life like passes no matter what, and like it kind of returns to that point. And that's what I love about the movie is that it starts that way and it ends that way.
Yeah.
You know, they're back on Pride Rock by the end of the movie. And Simba and Nala have their daughter. Well, if you're going off of Lion King 2, they have their daughter,
right?
And they are presenting her to the world, and it's a circle. It's literally like you went around and you're back to that point again. And
Beautiful
I think it's just such a I mean, Joseph Campbell, I think, storytelling right there. He's a terrible racist, but we're not going to get into that right
now. Maybe later, but.
But yeah, no, I think The Lion King is probably the strongest like opening I can think of. Like that's one that everyone will recognize as just like a solid start to a movie.
I agree.
Yeah, but that's an animation. I mean, we can dive into some more
if you have a let's go to worst openings.
Okay.
Because we got two really good ones there. But yeah, there are some pretty bad openers for movies.
What do you have in mind?
So, okay, honestly, the new Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. No spoilers, but that entire movie I hate. I've come to hate it now.
That's probably my least favorite Star Wars movie, which is saying something because there are really bad Star Wars movies out there.
And I honestly, I think just when The Rise of Skywalker opened, here's how bad it is. I can barely remember its full like opening sequence. I just remember seeing the opening titles like go across and just thinking, oh god. And
dude, they waste no time copping out.
I know, right?
Palpatine's back somehow.
Just the dead speak, and you're like, okay, really? Like, I don't know. And I think it's the worst opening crawl for a Star Wars. Like some opening crawls are like, you can quote them from like some Star Wars movies. But The Rise of Skywalker just has the most bland, uninspired, boring opening crawl, and going into it, just the stupidest just intro into the movie that sets up the dumpster fire that is the rest of it. So that's immediately, I was thinking about that last night. I was like, I really don't like The Rise of Skywalker's opening at all.
I think it's just the general confusion of how the opening even relates to the rest of the movie. Like, they set up a lot of new plot points right there. Like, and it's not done very well. Like, Adam Driver's just on like Mustafar out of nowhere. Yeah, and you're like, what's he even doing there? And he finds the holocron, and like within the first 10 minutes, you've already undone everything that Last Jedi sets up with Kylo Ren being the lead villain of the franchise, and you've replaced him with Emperor Palpatine again for some reason. You're not even like justifying how that happens. It's just like, oh yeah, he's withering and he's hooked up to some like freaky deaky machine or whatever. Like,
that's like you mentioned the holocron. Like with that opening sequence, that's all it is they just, here's a MacGuffin right off the bat. And when I saw that, I was like, really? Like, is this what this movie is? Just a MacGuffin chase? Like,
J.J. Abrams, he only know MacGuffin, mystery box, and lens flare.
That's his formula, dude. It's just like can't describe. Alfred Hitchcock said it best. A MacGuffin is something that the characters in the movie are trying to get that the audience doesn't care about. And they just open it up with that. It's not good. It's not good out of 10. Don't like it at all.
I think that it's a sad day where I'm more curious what Colin Trevorrow, director of Jurassic World, had to say about Star Wars than J.J. Abrams. I think that this is something that's pretty consistent in bad movie openings, is that they don't know how to introduce
anything,
the story at all.
Yeah.
And I would say, I know these movies get picked on a lot because they're already notorious for being the worst films of all time, but Birdemic, Shock and Terror, and The Room are two really good examples of this, because they just are establishing shots. Like, Birdemic is literally the main character is just driving to work. He stops at a gas station and like gets a snack, and like
that's exactly what Tommy does in The Room. Does he stop by the flower shop? Isn't that in the beginning?
I think he gets, hey Lisa, I think you look really sexy in that red dress. Like, I think he gets the red dress or something because he's like, hey babe, a surprise for you, which actually brilliant because they set it up in the opening shots of San Francisco. You saw him coming home with the surprise for you, babe. So funny, Mark. But just like this no clear direction in the opening. Like, I think what I like about a good opening is that it tells you where the movie's gonna go. Like Goodfellas, they go around to the back of the trunk, they stab the guy, and you get that immediate voiceover. Since I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Yes.
Like, you know where the movie's going.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's this dude and how he got here and how he got to be a gangster. When you watch The Room or when you watch Birdemic, you're like, where the hell is this even going? Like, what are they doing? It's like that Rick and Morty sketch where the guy just like is selling the fake doors, and then he drives home, and you know,
like, what the hell is happening?
Like still on. It's just a really lousy way of showing your opening credits. I feel like it feels TV almost.
Yeah, any film that opens with establishing shots. My professor in cinema history, Dr. Keith Corson, hates opening like the openings to movies where it's just establishing shots of the setting. And I agree with him because he's like, what are you telling about the story? Nothing. You're revealing one thing where it's set, and you can do that a million other ways instead of just going over the city while credits scroll. And there's so many movies that start with that. I can't even think of them all.
A lot of good movies start that way. Like one of my favorite movies I've seen in recent memory, Election, has a pretty lousy opening. It's just like some establishing shots of this high school that Matthew Broderick works at, and he's just running around the track, and it doesn't show you anything about what the movie's actually going to be like, which is him being this like pretty scummy person and going up against Reese Witherspoon. Like, you don't get any hint of that from the intro. And I just think that's such a shame, like that so many good movies choose to start off that way.
Which Election, such a good movie.
Did you get to see it?
I did get to see it.
Okay.
Yes. Dude, I love Election so much. That script is so good. But I agree, it starts off just kind of lousy, and you're like, what is this? Until you get into until 10 minutes in, then it starts, and it has that whole about there's one more thing you should know about Stacy, or I think that was her name.
And it was like the hooking up with the friend.
Yes, that's such a good edit there. But the opening's just kind of like.
I think that's how films should just start. Like, if you have a good 10 minutes that you think you can cut and you can jump to something juicy, like, I think that's what you should do.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think you should waste our time if you know that you're just trying to show opening credits, because that's the worst thing I'm talking about, when it feels like a TV intro where you're just watching it to see the names on the screen.
Right. Which,
what a waste.
Speaking of that, like, this is one of my favorite movies of all time, Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
The opening to that, even though the music is like, it's one of my favorite scores ever, and it's really haunting. It feels very uninviting, and so you're like, oh, I'm in for something. But all it's showing you is just the hotel in the city. It's like, or the apartments. It's like where we're gonna be at, while it has this pink, font, like cursive font, telling you. Even though the music's really good, that starts off just kind of boring. Like, it's just showing you the city, establishing shots before it finally gets into show you two characters and they're looking at an apartment. I think the movie could have just started out with maybe the door to the apartment opening and them showing this is the apartment, and then all of the rest of that stuff. But
to contrast that, another like all-time classic movie that sounds kind of boring when you describe the intro is The Shining.
Oh my God, yes.
But that's actually something I would argue is a very great intro. Like, you just get that immediate sense of dread from the score, like boom, 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 boom. And all they're doing is driving the road to the overlook. But
I
something
remember
about the way Stanley Kubrick shoots that, you just instantly get
I remember feeling very awful watching that intro when I was watching The Shining for the first time. I was like, oh my God, like this,
don't go up there,
don't stop driving, like that's weird. It's kind of weird because it is, by what we've been saying, that intro shouldn't work, but it does, because it's switching between establishing and inside the car, isn't it not? Where we get a little bit of dialogue from Jack's character, and then it cuts back to them driving and more credits, I think. But yeah, that's an interesting one.
I'm gonna talk about one more movie, and I think that you'll have some thoughts to say on this. I think a new director, Ari Aster, really knows how to start his movies, and I'm gonna talk about Midsommar because I think it's a solid 20 minutes before you see the opening title in that, and it's just this wonderfully like tense and very well acted like 20-minute intro to establish the stakes of the movie. And it's so great because you don't see a single name go through the screen or anything. You do get some establishing shots right at the start, but it doesn't waste time with them. Mm-hmm. And the score, that like kind of majestic like cult score, is right there at the start of the movie with that painting. Do you remember? It starts with the painting that shows everything.
Story. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. It kind of has two false openings. Mm-hmm. Midsommar, because it opens with the mural and it's like the like you're in a fairy tale, and then it opens to just like the landscape of where are they again?
They're in the States in the opening.
But it shows when they go to the cult. It opens up with the mountains of where they are when they meet the cult.
Sweden?
Sweden, yeah. It opens up with mountains of Sweden, and that woman is singing like that eerie kind of like hymn, and she's just kind of humming, and it shows different establishing shots of the mountains, but then you hear the phone rings, and you're there in the States, and then it cuts in, and yeah, it's a really weird opening, but by then when you hear that phone ring, it's very jarring, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, and then that entire sequence is just
It takes the Inglourious Basterds approach, which is to just start with this really nice, long, like, establishing sequence, and then we can jump into the rest of the movie. Like, it's a prologue. Like, if it were a book, this would definitely be a chapter titled prologue, and it would definitely be before chapter one.
Like, when I first watched the movie and that opening sequence, I was like, where is this going? Like, this is not what the movie's about. And then I was like, wait, and this is what the movie's about. And I should have known, because in Hereditary, I've never, and this is the first time in a horror movie I've actually felt dread, and actually when in Hereditary, when, spoiler alert, when the girl gets decapitated,
oh god,
and she finds it, and she's like just screaming, crying, like that is just an awful feeling. I remember being in the theaters being like, dude, I hate this right now, but it's so good. And I felt that same way with the opening sequence of Midsommar. It was just that feeling of, holy crap, dude, he takes a hammer to your head, like, first off, and then it's like, what else can happen in this movie? It's insane.
He really understands, like, family drama, and then I think Midsommar would go on to prove that relationship drama is something that he has under his belt. Apparently he's thinking about doing a comedy next. Which
it's a dark
I'd be interested to see.
I'm so ready for whatever he does next.
Whatever.
Have you watched his short films?
No, not yet.
Okay, you need to watch The Turtle's Head. Audience, go on YouTube and just type in The Turtle's. I think it's called The Turtle's Head by Ari Aster. It's a short film. It's like it's riffing on Chinatown, but it's so funny, and it's done in such a great way. It's so good, but it's really funny too. It's a black comedy. And I think that's why he wants to do like a comedy next, is because a lot of his earlier short films are more on the comedy side, but he just does horror so well.
He's brilliant, and I mean that's just a brilliant intro. And I think if I had notes on how to start a movie, I would say, look at that. Like, look at Midsommar. Look even at Hereditary. Like, just examine those and take some notes. Now, I know we've been talking for a while, but before we wrap up, I kind of want us to both maybe talk about what we would want this podcast to, like, kind of be. Like, our goal in doing it. Like, Casey, what do you have in mind to doing this?
I think, I didn't realize, but we've been talking for an hour.
Wow.
We were only going to be like 35 minutes, but when we start talking, it
goes. Takes off, man.
But no, I really, we definitely want to have a bunch of guests on here at some point. We want to get other people like we basically want it to be a place where we can actually talk about film and not just talk about. I've been feeling fatigue with movie review channels and just like film channels in general, because they seem to just talk about either the new movies that are out and they want to review the new movies, or they want to talk about what Marvel's doing next. They want to talk about what Disney's doing, or DC is the whole DC superhero universe. Just a bunch of that nonsense. But I really kind of want it just to be a place where we can talk about films in depth, kind of go behind or go further than face value, and just basically also turn what would normally be like a 10-minute video essay into like a 45 to an hour like discussion about different topics. And we have some topics lined up that I think are really interesting that I don't ever really see on in podcasts, or like on even like with some video essays. I was just kind of thinking like, why does nobody talk about this? Well, let's talk about this. And personally, I'm really into exploring and studying genres and genre life cycles. My favorite like genre ever is like westerns, and westerns have a very interesting history and their whole genre life cycle. And so, just want to maybe incorporate a little bit of film theory into some things, inject some culture because a good way to think about film is also looking at world history. And I love history, and history and film go hand in hand. Like film reflects the time that a film is made in. Like films from the 70s, they feel different than films in the early 2000s or right now. It's like, well, that's obvious because the political climate has changed. Every film is political, whether it's in the story or how politically it was made. So I like thinking critically about movies. We're very critical people, but we love film, and that's kind of what I want it to be. So
I definitely agree. I think that one of the biggest shortcomings about like YouTube film criticism is that it seems like the reviewers feel the need to only talk about one movie, and I mean that's fair. When a new film comes out and people want to know if they need to see it, like it's good to be able to just have a 6-minute video.
And we'll probably do that as well sometimes. You talk about new movies, but
quick reviews, that'd be nice. But like, I am more interested in like hearing about movements going on in film, and like as our world changes around us and our worldview, like I like to examine how that affects like filmmaking. Like I think we're gonna have a strange year next year in 2021, a post-pandemic film world. Like, what is that even gonna be like?
I know. Yeah,
and I'm sure there's already movies like cashing in on this now, because that's how things work.
Yeah.
But I would definitely love to incorporate those topics of culture and history and put them into our podcast, and just like really talk not just about films but about the world around films. And I would love to do that with you.
Yeah.
You want to keep doing this?
We should keep doing this maybe. Would like for this to be a weekly thing. I'd like to do a weekly talk, because I like talking about film.
Me too.
I'm a filmmaker, so
I'm just an enthusiast.
Me and Isaac just happen to have a lot of the same opinions, and a lot of differing opinions actually that we'll probably get into later.
I would love to discuss that, but I would love to hear if anyone's listening to this, like what you would like us to talk about at some point. Like I don't think that I know everything in the world about movies.
Definitely,
so I'd
me
love
neither.
To, if anyone has a topic that I don't really know about, I would love to look into it too. Yeah.
We love researching. At least I do. I buy so many film books, and I like reading about, like, I have movies of the 60s. That's like my favorite era for film. So if you have books or literature about certain things in film that you would recommend, hit me up. I will probably read it. Love expanding knowledge.
So maybe we could sign off with like a handle that people can reach us at.
You can reach us. You can reach me, Casey Hubbard, on. I'm more active on Twitter than anything else. So my Twitter is at Casey the Courier. So you can reach me on there. I tweet a lot of film stuff on there too. So
I'm also best reached by Twitter, and my username is ridiculous. But here, let's go. I'm at Mr. 754222. You know, if you can come up with a catchy jingle for that, that'd be great.
That'd be great.
Mr. 754222. Wait. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
I got all the numbers in there.
If you're viewing this on YouTube, let us know down in the comments, what are some of your favorite movies and some of your favorite movie openings of all time, or maybe the worst film openings of all time. We'd be interested to read that. And I guess until next time.
Yeah, I've been Isaac.
I've been Casey.
This is Mind Over Movies.
This is Mind Over Movies. Bye.